creatures that move in the night. Some perform all their deeds in the day. How crepuscularly I divide. The twilight is rising to play. So therefore your orders, therefore your cola, and don't mind insidious sprites in the soda. Should I tell you? Should I tell them who I really am? I'm a bunny boy, I'm so warm and fuzzy, jump in my funny toys, snug and cozy, comfy, run from a sudden noise. I'm so warm and fuzzy, young, dumb and unemployed, join my dozens, honey. I'm a bunny boy, I'm so warm and fuzzy, jump in my funny toys, snug and cozy, comfy, run from a sudden noise. I'm so warm and fuzzy, young, dumb and unemployed, join my dozens, honey. So you think you're alright where you are? Some would say that you blindly believe, yet it signifies not if you're far. It's not hiding if I never leave. So therefore your orders, so therefore your cola, and don't mind insidious sprites in the soda. Should I tell you? Should I tell them who I really am? I'm a bunny boy, I'm so warm and fuzzy, jump in my funny toys, snug and cozy, comfy, run from a sudden noise. I'm so warm and fuzzy, young, dumb and unemployed, join my dozens, honey. I'm a bunny boy, I'm so warm and fuzzy, jump in my funny toys, snug and cozy, comfy, run from a sudden noise. I'm so warm and fuzzy, young, dumb and unemployed, join my dozens, honey.
I'm in a horrible league. You think that you're fucking with me? When I speak, better listen to me. If I had to repeat, you would be on my hits, I like money to me. And believe me, I keep it a scene. Cause I'll go the road I know. They
Art of
won't.
war, caught him lacking. Martial art is no partial passion. Demon magic, master's blood is my hugest factor. Try to cut me, he's steady slashing. Need shit in sword, but it doesn't matter. I'm finna heal like it never happened. Human race is the weakest faction. Last 100 years I was beating asses. Looking for wrath, I found evil faster. Speak every week like a preacher pastor. Sneaky bitch, I'll see you laughter, eat your flesh and clean the casket. Easy meal, I'm easy snacking. Easy meal, I'm easy stacking. Easy kill, I'm easy packing. Bitch, for real, I'm really macking. Really bout it, really caught it. Like just remember, moves I made your boy a menace. Sorry, Red Goku, you finished. Should've turned demon, I meant it. Third in line for the Senate. Slashing my throat, I replenish. I'm not feeling damage. I kick it like hammock. Get open your bandage. I'm killing your famine. I'm smoking your friend. I'm out before sun up. I'll see you again. Sight? Well, it depends. I just might kill you precautions, but Hashira stopping our plans. Don't give a damn. Fuck is you saying? I'm fucking sliding. I'm slicing. He no longer stand. I never care about the weakling's demands. Fucking this life, I'll be gone with the wind. If you get strong, you might see me again.
I'm in a horrible league. You think that you're fucking with me? When I speak, better listen to me. If I had to repeat, you would be on my hits, I like money to me. And believe me, I keep it a scene. Cause I'll go the road I know. They won't. I'm in a horrible league. You think that you're fucking with me? No.
Hi guys. Happy Saturday. Lucy, congrats on first. Red, congrats on second. And Cheesecake, congrats on third. Hi guys. Hello, hello. Hope we're doing well today. King Crow, hello, welcome in. I see you. Hi, hi. Today we have our second rendition of turning VTubers into eyeshadow palettes. I'm really fucking excited. There were so many submissions on my first post when I announced that I was doing it. So I decided to take submissions from that post that I really liked the first time around but didn't choose for certain reasons, um, and turned all of them into my favorite palettes. Um, I had so much fun with this. Definitely was nice to kind of like get back into the groove of doing it. Um, I'm really fucking excited about it. I like I've been like thinking about makeup like more and more, especially since I'm gonna be starting cosmetology school. Um, so I am really fucking excited um to share more about like makeup and skincare and all that kind of stuff with people once I, you know, start participating in school. And that's not something I used to like want to say. Like I used to like tell myself like I would never go back to school. Hi Lotus, welcome in, sweetheart. Um, would never go back to school, but cosmetology school is something I'm passionate about. So, oh, big yawn. I just woke up from a nap. I was packing. Vel's streams are the best place to breathe. I loved how cheesy that was. It's so cute. Pun intended. Red, thank you so much for subscribing at tier 1. Thank you, thank you. My most favorite, absolutely beautiful monster. I'm going to tell you that you're absolutely amazing and deserve nothing but the best. Thank you, Lotus. I appreciate you. So I'm really fucking excited. But how is everybody else doing? How are we doing today? We doing good? I'm starting to pack because I'm gonna be moving starting tomorrow. I have a new place, have an apartment. So I'm really fucking excited, and I will have better power and better internet so that I'll be listening in the stream. Hell yeah! Thank you, Lotus. Fuck. I need to splash like cold water on my face. Always a good day when I catch a Vel stream. You're pretty consistent with catching my streams. Oh, congrats on the new place. Thank you. I actually have to like start like changing where things get delivered to now. Especially like on my throne. Um uh, so I'm gonna do that. Bell Bell, hi, Crow. Hold on. Speaking of like changing that, I'm gonna do that right now. Because I know how people can be without my address. Yeah, it's simple to update that info, yeah. Other places, not so much. Oh, there's my ears. Let me double check this. Thanks. Okay. Ears. Oh, turn them off. Turn off the ears. Thank you. And I still can't believe like my birthday is next month. Like it's crazy to think about. Like it's really weird to think about. I'm like I'm a whole year older. And I've been living in California for over a year now. I'm like, what the fuck? Goodness gracious, big yawns. Yeah, I really do need to splash like cold water on my face, man. Stop, don't. I'm older than you. You're making me feel ancient. I'm not like saying like I'm like old as fuck. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, you know, like it feels weird, you know, to like about like when you like age up. Cause then you just, you know, you know, you're a whole person. You're a whole year older than what you were literally the day before. I'm surprised I made it the song. No, same. I would have been. I think I should have been gone at like 13, 14, maybe. But I'm still kicking it. Yeah, but if you're getting a year older, that means it's only a matter of time till I become a year closer to fossilization. You're not that old, Lotus. Hi, Piancho, welcome in. You're not that old. I need to really splash on my fucking splash face on my face. What the fuck though? This is why I need to splash water on my face because I'm fucking like still trying to wake up. I've got 2 years till I'm fucking 30. Cursing it out for running away from me. Yeah. I mean, like, when I had a pet, I should have died in, like, 2019. I should have. So, I totally get it. I'm already past that. Really, Lotus? I had no idea. You're very young at heart. You give off the impression that you're, like, in your, like, at least, like, mid to late 20s. Hi, Knight. Welcome in, sweetheart. Hi, Knight. Hello, hello. Ooh, big stretch. Ooh. Ooh. I'm 34. I just don't look it. Makes sense, makes sense. I feel like, you know, I'll be 35 this year. I feel like I look my age. Maybe like a little bit older than what I should be. It's what people say to me all the time. You'll never know unless you want to say. So keep away unless you want to break. Yeah. I think most of like my audience is kind of like in their early to mid 20s. Maybe a few kind of like in the age 18 and up bracket, but Vel's 47. Vel's 47. I'm 47. That's wild. And then if I'm 47, I look good for 47. You're 27? I had no idea. Unkin. Unkin. Lucy, Piancho's only a year older than you. You guys need to be nice to each other. Ever posted a selfie in your server? You have not. But I have seen your selfies in Aeon's server. At about the 25-minute mark, I'm gonna take a small break to kind of wake myself up a little bit more, and then we'll get into the palettes. Scott, no, what's it wants to say? To keep away from the world to break. What song is this? Okay. Ooh, I just saw some stuffed animals with eye highlights. I was like, ooh, brother, ugh. Also, what are your guys' opinion on stuffed animals with eye highlights? Like the little kind of like not even just the whites of a stuffed animal's eyes. Those are fine, but like genuinely just eye highlights. Kaiser, thank you for the lurk. I appreciate it. I'm pretty sure the treatments, procedures, and stuff I went through to fight death has preserved my looks. It's like I've been frozen in time on the outside. I've just aged internally now. Makes total fucking sense, actually. I'd need to see an example. Sometimes not. Hi, Tay. Welcome in. It's actually a good thing that you're here. I have something to show you on Steam today. Hi, Tay. That's my sweetheart. Ooh, yes, ooh, indeed. I don't know. It's really pretty out today. How are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm so happy that you're here. Okay. I'm gonna go take a small break just to wake up a little bit more, and then we will get right into the palettes. I'm excited. Okay, I'll be right back. Enjoy the music and behave, guys.
They tried to take me out, but I won't fold. Chose this journey when I lost my soul. Won't take me down, won't take my throne. Died as a sheep, but I rise as the gold. I know that I paid the price. Now that I'm back, bet I'm after my gold. Never afraid to die. Fell as a sheep, but I rise as the gold. Rise as the gold.
Yeah. Came from the bottom, I came up from nothing. Came from the weakest and became a demon. Now everyone knows that no one can stop him. Can no one defeat him? I want it, I got it. I'm sat at the peak of the zenith, I'm popping. They're trying to beat for the line like a cavalry. So if I meet with the man, then I'm chopping. I got a blast, several forms. Zells and tank on my fur involved. I got him shit, fitting them all. Leaving him holy crusader the sword. Uncas the chop, phonics he pop. Best of the homie, he taking a shot. Came for the crown and I brought me a mob. Fuck with away. No payment, I'ma send his ass away. No faithful men with me in every station. Face to face with me, they learn the flesh. Blade to blade, I might send them open, send enough to send them off with no ritual. Trying to take the top, they need a miracle. Dig a pit and drop them in, he pitiful. Drip too cold, drip too clean. Golden on me, cupped another fleece. Sacrifice the cost, I know I lost. How you think I made it to the peak? Holding on, revolting, now I'm free. Broken once, but conquered those defeats. I was out, but now I count my keep. Rise the goat inside to die the sheep.
They try to take me out, but I won't fold. Chose this journey when I lost my soul. Won't take me down, won't take my throne. Died as a sheep, but I rise as the gold. I know that I paid the price. Now that I'm back, bet I'm after my gold. Never afraid to die. Fell as a sheep, but I rise as the gold. Rise as the gold.
Ever underestimated, never less than what I made it. Desecrated temples to their old gods when I showed them all that I'm the greatest. Then I showed them all why I'm the favorite. Craft community and elevate it. Nothing left in mind to hold devotion. Nothing left that I'm to holding sacred. Nothing left to find in the forest. I've sent him off from that place. Spent all the webs of Shamura. Went to Anura. Made Hecka red in the face. Made calamari out of calamar. He couldn't counter curse and blades. Fuck taking orders. I could cut down the cat where he
They
waits.
try to take me out, but I won't fold. Chose this journey when I lost my soul. Won't take me down, won't take my throne. Died as a sheep, but I rise as the gold. I know that I paid the price. Now that I'm back, bet I'm after my gold. Never afraid to die. Fell as a sheep, but I rise as the gold. Rise as the gold.
On the court, I'm a dangerous cat. Yo, it's young do-rag. I don't hang with these rats. I was checking the score. I was down in the fourth. Had to play it like Jesse. I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back. I was bringing it back. I was checking the score. I was down in the fourth. Had to play it like Jesse. I'm bringing it back. I'm like R.I.P. Faye. I put my soul and my heart in this play. I take a show to the park every day. Straight to the hole of the arc for a JC. The better the flow than the harder we play. You ballers admit I'm just nice from the minute. You not in my circle. We like to get shifty. Even on people, they might let me gritty. I sit with a fit that I hit with a 50. Okay. P6 move my flow to the town. Quick shot king. I was hoping for rap. See the pressure was on and it's choking them now. Alright. P6 move. I shoot with the touch. Break round 3. I get high in the clutch. And he said he win nothing was not against us. You against me. See the outcome was predetermined. Beef with me. Even Deacon gon' need a sermon. Treat my queen like a green. I'ma need a perfect. Drop a scheme at the screen. They gon' need to nerf it. 3 on 3 against me. Leave a team and hurts it. If you beat at the beat, I'ma eat the verses. Shooting 3 at the 3 like my teammate was green. At the shooter like me, you gon' need a turret. Too hot with these goals on this track. Like he stopped when I
You both are perverts. That's the real answer here. Don't have to lie, you guys are both perverts. Oh lord. You guys are being mischievous. The fuck, y'all? I told you guys to not be mischievous. What the fuck is up with that? I'll put all y'all in timeout. Who's a pervert? Piencho and Lucy. Piencho and Lucy for sure. I'm a pious individual. I love being mischievous. Yeah. Nothing can stray me off the path of God. I literally have so many examples of things that would stray you off the path of God. Okay. You are so full of it. Where's the chat widget? I'm gonna turn that off. Window capture. This one. Let me turn on the music a little bit more. You guys are silly. Okay. But yes, welcome to the second rendition of turning VTubers into eyeshadow palettes. Yay! Ooh, my voice got really fucking high there. I'm really fucking proud of the stuff that I did this time around. Picked another 20 VTubers from that same original post that I didn't pick the first time. But I was like, you know what? I want to turn them into palettes. So I'm really fucking happy with my choices for how I did each palette. Don't air out my dirty laundry. Wild. But yes, 20 more VTubers. So I've done 40 palettes at this point in time, and I cannot wait to do more. I'm gonna be doing another makeup palette stream at the end of next month too. But with that being said, note that this is my take on makeup palettes. It's meant to kind of just like be what I would do for their color palette, their design as a palette. So be nice to me or I'll cry. Let me actually turn off that and this while I'm at it too. Be nice to me or I'll cry. I will fucking sob and then you will feel really bad. You have to be nice to monsters. We're sensitive. We're sensitive ass bitches. I'm opening up some more cheese because I'm hungry. I had a bowl of cereal today and haven't had lunch yet. But I'll have lunch after stream because normally these streams don't take that long, but yeah. I'm constantly like worried I'm gonna like piss people off with like my choices, but again, it's just like it's my opinion on what I would do with them, with their design as palette. I'm like, be nice to me, I'm sensitive. Oh. But with that being said, alright, finish my cheese. Let's get into the first palette I designed. So the first one up is Sketchy Raven. She and I actually kind of did like a art trade together. She designed a set of nails for me, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'm going to turn her design into an eyeshadow palette. So I was really happy to do this. She has like definitely alternative for her style. I don't know how exactly I would describe it like with words, but her style is definitely alternative, but still has like pops of color. I don't know if you guys know like the proper like kind of style you would describe her as, but still she's fun, she's cute. Mostly, I think there's some that I really struggled with. I didn't struggle with her as much as I thought I would. So her palette, is kind of organized. You can kind of see like my little cursor thingy. But the top one is kind of based off of her like her face. So is the bottom one as well. The bottom one is more for like the gray details in her model. But the top row is kind of like her face is kind of like a powdery color. But she does have like have her like her natural skin tone showing. Definitely kind of like alternative goth. I guess that's the word I would use, kind of like alternative, because like a lot of people who dress more gothic tend to kind of like paint their faces like a lighter shade than in their skin tone, sometimes even white. Um, I got tea drink. I'm just gonna leave my fucking water unscrapped. Smash next. Wild. Um, so these kind of like these first three are based off like her skin tone, and the kind of like off-white color she has for her makeup. Then you delve into the actual makeup colors on her face. Lots of really pretty blues. This one kind of reminds me of the lipstick that I did for your eyeshadow palette, Pincho. This middle row is based off of her outfit, obviously. Definitely more colorful than like the top and the bottom rows. Lots of green. There are blues in kind of like her outfit, but you mostly see that kind of like in her in her skirt, which is like this darker blue, which is why I put it in the middle row. You also get kind of like the darker blue in her sleeves of her outfits, like with her like hand warmers, and then also on her her stocking on her is it, I'm trying to think, would it be her left hand side or her left hand side? Yeah. See, I know my directions. Still waking up. Cut me some slack. Definitely had like pops of green because you know her main top and her chunky belt are green. Have pink in there for her sleeve and her like little hair pieces right there, and in her nails. The blue for her other hand warmer, and in her shoes. And then there's also purple. You won't be able to see it here, but she has purple in her lower stocking. And then again the dark blue for the kind of like the darker colors in the in her outfit, like her skirt, the main color of the thigh highs. Yeah. And then this bottom row, I was struggling to kind of like pick what to focus on for her model because it's kind of like very, there's not like there's color variation, but it's kind of hard to kind of like pinpoint it. But then I noticed lots of the silver details in her design, in the choker, in her belt, in her facial piercings. So I decided to make the bottom row kind of like center around the piercings and the jewelry that she chooses to wear. So just shades of gray, pretty self-explanatory. She was very fun to play with. I definitely like, I struggled a little bit, and like you'll find other palettes that I kind of struggled with, that their palettes are pretty kind of like what is it? Coda, thank you so much for subscribing at tier 1. You've been subscribed for 7 months. Hello, welcome back. Mwah, thank you so much. Some of them I really struggled with this time around, just because of like their main color palette. Designing the palette based around their model wasn't difficult, but like kind of like the way I wanted the colors to flow. But actually choosing colors that I thought fit the best were extremely difficult for some of them. But yeah, let's get to Raven. Next on the list, let me take another drink real quick. Okay. Next on the list, we have Ravenna. She was one of the ones that I originally wanted to do, but for kind of like balancing out the look of the previous stream that I did, I decided to pick others. But I was like, if I ever do another one, I'm definitely picking Ravenna, just because I love all the pinks and the blues in her design. She was very fun to play with in her design. The color layout is really self-explanatory. I wanted to have the main, like the lightest colors that I selected in the center. There are also the shimmer shades that I selected. Each palette has 5 shimmer shades and 18 matte shades. So it'll be a little bit easier to kind of tell on certain models what color is the are the shimmer shades. But for Ravenna, the lightest colors in the palette are her shimmer shades, just because the more vibrant colors in her palette would help make the shimmer shades pop. So if you were to use, for example, the white in the middle on top of these blues, it would definitely make the kind of like these transition shades into the darker color pop a lot more. Same thing with the kind of like the magenta color, kind of like will definitely make the transition shades pop against the darkest color. But you can also like play around with it if you want to put a shimmery purple on top of the magenta. If you wanted to put kind of a shimmery blue on top of the kind of like lighter turquoise blues, you definitely can. Same thing with the pink, you can put on top of the magenta or the purple. It's really just a matter of like how you want to play with these colors. Completely up to you. Her palette is pretty, like, pretty simple. Her main colors are pink, blue, and purple. Purple as in like the transition color from that light turquoise color right here into like the pink on the very ends of the wings. But I also just felt like magenta, this top row right here, was kind of like another really good color to include. It feels like cohesive with the other colors in her design. Very cotton candy, very much cotton candy. She would probably have the oh gosh, I'm trying to think what perfume I would pair with her at this point. But pink, blue, and purple were definitely the primary colors. And I included some darker blues, just because those are part of her like actual like outfit and like the I don't know what you would call them. I guess in the latex that are kind of like wrapped around her body. But I definitely think including the magenta was a good choice. And then this kind of side was just kind of more of a transition between the two. I kind of included it because it's like more towards her skin tone. She's very fair. It doesn't look like she goes out in the sun very much. But I wanted to include kind of like her like base colors, like her like from her skin and her hair in the palette just a little bit, not a lot, because I wanted to focus mostly on the more vibrant colors. But they're there. They're meant to kind of help lighten up certain colors. Like if you wanted to make this just a little bit more lighter, you would mix it in with this. Any of the other colors really. But you can also make a look with just this side as well. it's really up to you. But yeah, that's Ravenna. She definitely smells like cotton candy and like she smells like cotton candy and like I don't even know what else. Like sweet tarts. Definitely, definitely. Okay. But that's Ravenna. Our next one is Gabby. I wanted to choose her originally. She was one of like a handful of people for certain color palette. Like when I was designing my first rounds of color or makeup palettes, I did it kind of based on like what colors they had, what their main primary colors were. Because I wanted to make sure that I was like doing a wide variety of colors. So, there were people who had like more like yellow and brown color palette, some that had blue and orange. And she was on one of my lists for kind of like a pink and green color palette, but I found one that just worked a little bit better for what I wanted to do that time. But I told myself if I did it again, I would choose her. So obviously I picked her this time round. Um, so for the layout of the palette, we go from the pinks over here to kind of like more of the orangey colors in her design, to yellow, to the greens, because green is more like in her outfit than anything else. You can kind of like associate the front half of this palette with her face and her skin and her makeup, and then you can associate more of the greens with her. You can associate more of the left-hand side of the palette with her outfit. But her design, fucking gorgeous. She's a really talented artist. Let me take a drink of water because I'm yapping a lot. And then again, how I kind of laid out the colors themselves, I did kind of columns for her. So kind of light, medium, dark, light, medium, dark, light, medium, dark, all the way across. And it still kind of like again gives the transition from the pinks into the kind of like reddish pink color to the yellow, because she does have, and she also has orange in it, but in her design, but only kind of like a little bit, so it made sense to kind of like put it in with kind of like the darker color in her blush and in her shoulders, before transitioning into the kind of like yellows. I just felt like it would flow a lot better than just making a whole row of orange. It didn't really make sense to me to make a whole separate row when I feel like these colors themselves work really well together. And then there are like parts like shades of yellow like in the kind of like the very tips of her wings, on her face, and also kind of like on the outer parts of her blush. That just like are really soft, and I was really like, I like yellows. Yellows is probably like top 3 favorite colors. Pink is my favorite color, obviously, and then I love like pastel, like yellow, and like a baby blue. Those are some of my favorite colors. I was like, I love how soft the yellows in her design are. Like, don't get me wrong, I am a sucker for a good like mustard yellow in like clothing, or just like a bright like sunny yellow like in a dress. But I feel like sometimes it's really hard to make yellows work in a design. So the way that she used the yellow in her gradient from the soft yellow into kind of like the vibrant pinks in her design, I thought was really smart. And then her fucking dress is absolutely fucking gorgeous. Like, this little PNG does not do it justice, but I could not find another piece of art from her. Oh goodness. I cannot find another piece of art that would fit what I wanted for her, um that would fit for this, that would only like show off just her model. So this is the one I have, but her dress is an absolutely gorgeous shade of green. Um, it's these are kind of like the primary base colors for her dress, but then you kind of have transition colors in her dress that are gradients, and then you also kind of like see like these main colors in her in like the body of the dress. And then kind of these greens kind of make up the like the more of the details in the dress. These show up kind of near the bottom of the dress because the dress has a train. And it kind of goes from like these like certain like these colors fading from like this lighter green into kind of these colors, and then at the very base of the dress you have kind of like these bluish green colors that pop out a little bit more. I didn't include like her hair color in her design just because I felt like her overall design is very vibrant and colorful, and I thought that her her actual like design, so like in her details, like in her butterfly wings and her dress, would be able to make her stand alone as a like just by itself. Her hair would have definitely just been like another pop of color, but I think her outfit and her makeup alone make her stand out already. Hi Vin, welcome in, sweetheart. Good to see you. We're just talking about why I chose the certain colors for her palette for Miss Gabby. I need to take a drink while I'm here. But her design alone is very unique and not something that I've really seen from any other VTubers. So when I look at this, I definitely think that looks like Gabby's model. Like the hair would have definitely kind of like helped, like been like another like point of recognition. But just even without her hair color being in the palette, like I think that it sticks out extremely well that this is Art of Gabby, which is her handle on Twitter. And you should check out her art because she's very talented. But yeah, that's Gabby's palette. She was probably like, she was one of the easier ones to work with. I knew what I wanted to do with her before I had even designed her palette. So I was very grateful that I was able to pick her this time around. What do we think? What do we think? I'll take a break to get some more water in me. How are you liking what I've done so far? We still have got 20. Got 19 more VTubers to show off. There's so many VTubers. But let's move on. Our next one is the Amethyst Switch VT, otherwise known as Tay. I love Tay. She's a very pretty girl in real life. One of my friends in the nerdcore community. I wish I had the art that I referenced for her palette itself, because I feel like this art of her, like this art is like her PNG that I saw, that I was like had access to that I feel like captured kind of what I wanted to show off for her. So this PNG I had to use just because it was kind of like ease of convenience, but the actual art that I referenced. Hi Tay! Hi Tay! The actual art that I referenced for she drew on the walls. She did draw on the walls. I just got out of the shower. Hell yeah. The art that I referenced was one of my favorite pieces of art from Tay. I feel like I gotta pull it up now. Let me grab it real quick. Cause I feel like the PNG right here, like, don't get me wrong, it's one of my favorite PNGs. I love the style of it. But it doesn't like show, like, it doesn't like do the art justice that I am referring to. Let me look at my profile. Media, gotta go all the way down. Down the fucking rabbit hole. It's not what I wanted. No, it's the one with the flowers. The one with the flowers. That's my favorite one. Let me pull it up. It's coming. It is my favorite art of you of all time. Alright, escape real quick. We're going to... Okay, this is the art I'm talking about. This is the art that I referenced for her palette. It is my favorite art of Tay of all time. And it makes sense in why I... Still my fave. It's my favorite. But this PNG was the one that I thought would fit the best here. So I referenced it. But that art was the one that I referenced for the color palette. So pretty self-explanatory for the top row. The top row is based on just her skin tone and her makeup. So you start kind of with like the lightest color. The way I would use this palette every day of my life. Oh my gosh. So we start with like the lightest color in her like overall palette, like just in general from her model. It's because I haven't drawn her. Tay is very pretty. Tay's model is very pretty. Then you have her skin tone. Then you kind of like have transition colors that kind of focus more into the makeup. Like the blush, the details in her eyeshadow. And then you kind of get into the darker colors of her lip gloss. Or her lipstick rather. Whatever you prefer. Her lips in that, you know, in her design are very shiny and very kissable. And I would kiss her on the lips if she would let me. But her the top row is definitely more focusing on the skin and the makeup, which are very kind of like rosy and pink and kind of soft, like in certain ways. But that lipstick of hers is very dark and gives very witchy vibes. Witches love dark lipstick. Then obviously her hair is this pretty purple. This color right here is based off the off her glasses in the design. I absolutely would. You have my consent. Hell yeah. Kissing hot girls. I'd watch. We know Pyeoncho. Pyeoncho and I are in an art Discord server together, and like whenever like we share artwork of like our we call them the dolls. We call them the dolls in the Discord server. But if we draw like art of us together, like kind of like being flirty or cutesy, Piancho's always like, I'd watch you guys kiss. Like, you guys are so hot. But that's besides the point. The light color here is based kind of like off the silver in her glasses, which are these cute little fucking hexagons, which I think is just really fucking unique. You don't see a lot of like hexagon glasses, and I think it works really well for her design. Obviously, the main focus of the palette is the purples in her hair. I like purple's a very popular color for VTuber designs, but I think that the way I think the way that her hair stands out against her skin tone works really well in the design. I think that the gradient from like the lightest part of purple in her hair all the way down to the shadows just pops so well against her skin tone. So well, and not to mention like it's a main focal point for her design. It makes sense to, you know, like have that kind of like be the center point. And then in this bottom row, she has pops of gold in her design, in the moon on her head, in her earring, and her choker. And I wanted to include that. And then I also just kind of like included some more like browns to kind of like balance it out, kind of like neutral wise. Especially because these are like super bright compared to these two. And then these last three colors are kind of based off the kind of the undertones of her outfit in that actual art piece. But I think that all of these would pair really well with the colors above them, kind of like going from kind of a like a rosy kind of like dark pink to these darker purples, and then even mixing these two together to kind of like create a transition color. I think it fits really well. Tay overall has just like really good, like her model's design has really good like has a really good like balance of colors. She's definitely more of like a neutral palette, but she does have where the pops of color come from is really just in her hair. Which is again why it's the center column in the design. What's that? What did you notice? No sense this time. The sense, yeah, no sense this time. I really just wanted to kind of focus more on the artsy part of it, which is, you know, like how you would create an eyeshadow look with this, talking about why I chose certain things. Don't get me wrong, like I loved picking like scents that I feel like would fit the palette. But despite how many perfumes there are out in the world, I felt like I still felt like I did like really well with like what I chose for people the last time, whether it was like the theming of the perfume or kind of just like the overall vibes of the perfume. I feel like just there are not enough like scents in the world to kind of like get each exact one the way I want it to be. So I'd rather just kind of focus on like the artsy part of it, and you know, if people want to like make their own kind of like idea of what perfume that they would pair with this specific palette, I would want them to, you know, choose that for themselves. But that's just me. I'm just here for the artsy part of it. But yeah, that's your palette, Tay. This is very much a, like, in the way that you do your makeup in real life, like whenever I see you at conventions and stuff like that, this screams you. Like, 1000%. So I hope I did you justice. I don't know what your opinion on it is. I don't know how you like it, but tell me what you think. Alright, but with that being said, let's move on to the next one. We have Moon. There were 3 primary colors in Moon's design. You had gold, you had purple, and you had pinks and reds. I had I honestly, like, I feel like I like some of these, like this one is kind of like more it's like similar to Tay's, and just kind of like how I, not even just like how I laid it out, but they're just like very obvious like focus colors in her design. I was really like surprised like that you guys had that same kind of like moon shape in your on your forehead, which I thought was really cute. But the top row, I focused more on the golds and the browns, especially since she is very, her skin tone looks very olive to me. So but I was still like playing more into kind of like brown shades that kind of like matched up with like her skin tone a little bit more. And then obviously I picked gold from her jewelry, and then added some darker browns that I feel like would complement both the golds and the kind of like the olive skin tone that is in the palette. And then her hair obviously is purple. So I included some of her base hair colors, but also just pops of color that showed up in other parts of her outfit, like in her bodice, I would say, and also in her kind of like the sleeves of her outfit, which is like this darker purple right here. And then one of her main primary outfit colors is pink. But she also kind of has like darker reds in like her makeup. So I just focused primarily like on this front half being towards her outfit colors, and then kind of like transitioning more into kind of like the makeup colors that I found in her design. I wanted to pick her again, like originally. She was one of like my original picks for it. Her design was really there wasn't like a lot of people that had like her color palette when I was going through like my choices the first time around when I did this. She was on the list of people I picked for like pinks. But I ended up, you know, going with some other people. But her design did stick out to me because of how because of like I guess like the contrast between like her skin tone and the golds versus the kind of like the lighter pinks and the purple in her hair. So it just, to me, it made sense to choose her this time around. Her palette is very distinctive, and if you were to look at her full model, you would definitely be able to tell like, oh, this is Moon. This is definitely based off of Moon herself. Oh, I gotta take a drink. I guess like one of my favorite ways to kind of like organize the palette is going from like right to left, starting with like the lightest shade going to dark. But and like I definitely like experimented with that more out, but like I still kind of like go with like my roots and do the right to left in the transition colors. I don't really know what else to like say about it. Like, it's easier for me to kind of like there are certain like palettes where I can like I feel like I can say more about it. Um Either because I know the person like we're on a friendship level, or um their design gave me more of a challenge. Like with Moons, like I'm not saying like she wasn't like hard, but her design is very kind of like to the point, which was really easy for me to work with. But it definitely gave me some challenges when I was trying to decide for the skin tone. That was probably like this top row was probably the hardest to work with, because I wanted to find ways to balance out all the kind of like the pretty colors but still kind of like have like something neutral in it. So that's probably like where I had like the most trouble. Like, she's definitely like very like to the point, but it still definitely gave me some issues. But I think I did pretty well. Again, like if you saw her full model, like you would be able to tell like this is definitely based off her. But yeah. So that's Moon. Next we have Alistair Thorne. He I was really adamant on doing him just because I thought his overall design was really unique. Literally one of his legs is completely frozen, and I feel like I very rarely see. Okay. I feel like I very rarely see people who have like it's common for VTubers to have like wings or like beast arms, but to like see somebody literally with just like only one frozen leg was just really like distinctive. So that's what drew me to his design, especially because like in traditional art of like I saw of him on his Twitter, he's very like his color palette is extremely neutral. Like, and you can tell by like this top row of colors, it's very like it was very neutral, and the only pops of color you really got were from like his outfit and his eyes. Because this middle row is based off like his main like sweater design, but this bottom row is based off the blues, both in his eyes and on his frozen leg. Hi Sapphire, welcome in. Mwah. There you go. So like if you only focus on like the upper half of his model, these top rows make complete sense. And you would think he was kind of just like neutral with like a few pops of color. But again, the main kind of like focus point, like the one thing I was really kind of drawn to was his leg. You start with his leg, you focus on his leg first, and then you kind of go up from the rest of the outfit, which is why I put it down on the bottom row. And then your eyes kind of get drawn up to the other like pops of color in his design. You have like these this bright red, this kind of like it's a very warm brown. And then you also had this dark blue was in his sweater, but you got a pop of like this bright blue in his eyes. This art doesn't really do it justice. His eyes and his design are very, very bright. And then he's a bunny, but he has like silver in his hair, so wanted to include some silver, the pinks in his ears, and then his skin tone was probably like one of my favorite parts to do in a palette. And I was like just like look at all the like like some really pretty undertones for his skin. And just like, but like, you're definitely like, your main focal point for him is the pops of blue in the lower half of his design. And I also really loved how he included. Excuse me. I really loved how he included the bright blue in his eyes and then also brought it down into the lower half of his design. I think that like when people use colors like that, like it's very smart. Like you have something, like you have a focal point and then it kind of just like forces your eye to look from certain parts. Like so you'll look at his like frozen foot, and then you'll kind of like be like, okay, look at those like icy blues, where else can I find that in the model? And then you kind of just like, again, it drags your eye upwards, which I think is just incredibly smart, like design wise. But yeah, that's Alistair. I like, he like his was like, his was easy to like pick the colors from. It was more about like how I wanted to lay it out that like gave me the most issue, because I didn't know if I wanted to put his like main outfit colors in the middle or on the top. But I felt like putting like, his outfit doesn't really have like much variety. You get more variety in his skin and kind of like animal features and in his like in the lower part of his design than you do in the main part of his design. So that's why I put the like the outfit colors in the middle, because there wasn't much variety there. Like there is variety, but not as much like color variety as you would get in the skin and in the icy part of his foot. But yeah, that's Alistair. He was really fun to work with. But next, we have Rickall. She was one of the, like, she was like top of the list for like ones I wanted to pick for green VTubers. Just because of how unique her design was. I have never seen a VTuber like her. But I was like, okay, if I don't pick her this time, I will definitely choose her another time. And I love the way that her model is drawn, which is one of the main reasons why I picked her. It's a little tricky to kind of like describe how I organized her palette as well. She has very distinctive colors. There's no doubt about that. It was very tricky to choose how I wanted to do it. Obviously, we have like her skin tone, like that was something important to include. I guess I can start with kind of like the bodysuit. The bodysuit is kind of like the majority of what you see. The only pops of color that you really get are in the kind of like the little details in her model. Like you have like this kind of like bright blue right here, which I turn into a shimmer shade. You have pops of blue that show up in I don't know what she kind of like, what she would call it, but she carries something on her back that has like these really like really nice pops of blue right here. But you also kind of see them in her design as well. And then there's kind of like some other kind of like softer, like, or kind of like darker blues that you also see in like the way that she, in her like little backpack thing that she carries. Again, her main bodysuit is kind of like these kind of like cool blues and grays. And again, that's what you mostly see with her design, is just kind of like the blues and the grays. Again, with just little pops of color here and there. But she's a sound VTuber, which I thought was really fucking cool. Like, it's just, that's just not something I've seen before. I've never seen somebody like with their design like this. But there's also like just kind of like pops of white. The top row and kind of like this bottom corner were very like what's the word? They were intentional. I very much like made this like kind of top row on this half and this bottom corner be kind of more like I laid it out very intentionally. Again, you have like the yellows and the golds in her design. I wanted to focus mainly on the kind of like the brighter colors, just because I feel like like despite how she looks like in her kind of like standard reference, she just, when you're a sound VTuber, I feel like you're very like bright and bouncy, and I wanted to make sure that like this kind of like top row kind of like focused on that. So we have like the brightest yellow in her design right there, and then she has a transition from kind of like a mint green into kind of like a I guess like I would call it battery acid like green, which is kind of like the focus of this part. You kind of have like this darker green in her hair, kind of like as a shadow, so that was important for me to include. And then not only does she have a guitar that has like this really like this pop of red, but you also get it in like the kind of like the details of her bodysuit. And also in her guitar she has like this darker red color as well. So that was really important for me to include. And then on her guitar as well, she had this really pretty green that wasn't anywhere else on her model. And then I also wanted to include kind of a darker version of that kind of green. So, but kind of put it more towards like gray and black, but still kind of like have like that green undertone. So that was really important for me to include. It was like, again, like some of these palettes, I had a really hard time deciding on how I wanted to organize the colors that I chose. The way that her palette, you know, is organized isn't really super cohesive. Like you definitely have like the visual kind of transition from here, from this side to this side and this side to this side. For this bottom row, you get it from here to here when it comes to like her main like outfit colors, but I was struggling to kind of decide where I wanted to put these two colors, because no matter what I was gonna do, there was gonna be some sort of like focal point either here or here. And for me, I thought visually it would make sense to keep the reds up here and then kind of have like another pop of green, so your eyes would kind of go like, oh, there's this, and then kind of here, and then kind of down here. But these are like, I would guess like these three colors right here are bright enough to also kind of draw your eye from here to here, and you can kind of look everywhere else afterwards. Some of them are like, some of the palettes kind of have similar like organization, but hers was just a special case as well. Yeah, but that's a great call. I loved her design. Her design is super cute. I love the style of her reference sheet. It makes me want to commission the artists themselves because I love the way it looks. So, but yeah, that's a great call. Next, we have Savvy. She was one of the original orange VTubers I was going to choose. But I decided to pick some other ones that kind of had a little bit more, that had some variety, like with Misty Kiri with her blue and orange color scheme. But she was, again, very high on the list for what I wanted to pick for orange VTubers. She definitely gives fall. She's comfy and cozy, and I feel like this palette screams comfy and cozy. Her overall design is fucking beautiful. Like her overall design, just like the way that like her outfit looks, it's very like rendition of like I guess like what I would say like is like visually what I would think of with like a fall outfit that still wanted to be cozy and alternative. Um so I had a shit ton of fun working on her palette. Um so how I organized the colors on her palette is obviously starting with the lightest color in the middle, because I wanted that to. Ooh. Oh no! Go back. Don't look at that. I wanted to start with the lightest color in the middle to draw your attention there, and then based on like how you wanted, little Vault Dollar, hello, hello, welcome in, sweetheart. Good to see you. I want your eyes to start in the middle and then kind of work your way out depending on where you wanted to go color-wise. Obviously, main color I was really focusing on was oranges, but she has like shades of kind of like more like maroon in there as well. But you definitely get more of kind of like the burnt oranges in her hair, and in her this PNG doesn't really show off her tail like properly, but her tail has like more of those kind of like burnt orange colors right here. What I missed? We're just talking about how I'm organizing the colors in her design. For kind of like her skin tone parts of her design, pretty self-explanatory, starting with kind of like the lightest color in her skin tone, kind of working my way down in kind of like the way that how many did I miss? Oh, I think this is the 7th one. I couldn't tell you. No, because the bottom two. Actually, I think this is number 8. You're fine, sweetheart. But for kind of like her skin tone, you start with the lightest shade of her skin, and then her skin tone is very much like orange focused, so I love you too. That was something that I also wanted to focus on. And then on this side of the palette, there were still some like pops of color that I wanted to include from her hair that I didn't feel like fit on this side, so I put it over here. And I feel like it draws your eyes that way. But pops of color from her hair went kind of like on the top part, kind of next to her skin tone. And then there was also kind of like these transition colors in her hair as well, that aren't kind of like properly captured here, but they're absolutely breathtaking. Then kind of like in this like this bottom half, you see like these colors in her hair, but you also see it in like her in her outfit as well, which I think works really well, kind of like bringing brings colors from her hair down into her outfit, just visually like makes everything look nice in my opinion. I think that people like they're like it doesn't always work for people, but personally I think that she did a really good job of bringing colors from the top of her head down into her outfit and into her kind of like the lower parts of her body, which just makes a lot of sense to me. She's very comfy. She's a very cozy palette, and I fucking love her design. She's a fucking cutie. I know she's a fox, but I don't know what her kind of like, what the scales on her kind of make her into. So I would love to like hear more about like what the background for her design actually is. But she, like, her outfit like is definitely something that I would wear personally. And I love like calico styled hair. I think it's actually really fucking cute. I also like would love to try like Neapolitan style hair. That just is like another like type of like hair color that I really like. But that's just me. But that's savvy. But our next one, actually, I gotta take a drink first before we start. Okay. But our next one is, you guys said a little bit early, but Blue Bellis. Um, again, she was also one of like my choices for blues. Um, just because I loved the way that her design looked, and I felt like she would be a challenge for me to do visually. But I ended up going with some other VTubers. But I was going to choose her if I ever did it again. So, kind of like how I did with Savvy's, starting with the lightest color in the center and kind of transitioning out. There, I'm trying to remember like what part of her model, because like I didn't reference this photo for her design when picking out colors. So I guess let me start with like what's very obvious. Her hair and the top parts of her wings were all of these colors right here. I also remember what this was for, but we'll go back to it. I love the way that these kind of like blues just look together. I just think it's absolutely fucking stunning. And then kind of like in her in like these center parts of her wings kind of like going into the lighter ones. There were these like really like this like pop, it kind of reminds me of like seafoam. Even though it's not actually the color of seafoam, it reminds me of seafoam. And I thought these colors worked really well next to these colors, and again they kind of like give off like the slight green tinge to it. So I feel like it works like color wise. And then obviously she has brown accents in her clothing, which I think green and brown looks really really good together, especially kind of like a more like muted green like in the shadows, but also kind of just like the lighter colors that kind of like words are hard. The lighter colors in the green pop against the brown, but the kind of shadows of the design where the kind of like green is darker also pair really well against kind of the lighter parts of the brown, is what I'm trying to say. So obviously I focused primarily on kind of like the greens in her outfit. And that was kind of like one of the easier parts of picking her design, besides like her hair. This top row kind of like references like her, like the colors in her eyes. It's really goodness cute. Oop, in her eyes you can't really fucking see it. Hold on, there's dog barking. It's really hard to see in like her in this one, but she has very like soft blues in this part of her design. So I wanted to include that. But also kind of like in like the very top of her head as well. She kind of has like those softer, like light blues as well. So that was important to include as well. I didn't really have like a certain way I wanted to pick the colors for her design, or like which shades I wanted to be her shimmer. I thought this one just kind of made sense because I wanted kind of this part that I feel like that really wouldn't get attention otherwise, should have been like a focal point in the palette. Her hair was a no-brainer for being like one of the pops of color. I chose the lightest brown in her design, and then I chose two of the brightest greens in her design as well to be shimmer shades. But that's Bluebellis. She was very sweet and very cute. I like her design. Her reference sheet is really fucking pretty too. But that's Bluebellis. Alright. Our next one is Ori. Oh god. Okay, there goes my model. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Ori was actually pretty difficult for me. The only part that really wasn't difficult was kind of like the few pops of color that they had. Their palette is mostly kind of like browns with like pops of yellow. So I was trying to figure out a way to make it look more kind of cohesive in that way. So top row is based off of the skin tone. Yeah. Top part of the outfit, or top part of the palette, is based off skin tone and kind of like the main body, like, or like I guess like the primary outfit colors. So he's definitely got like an olive skin tone. Stream doesn't obviously like show off like how it looks like when I like on like my screen versus what your guys' screen looks like. But he's definitely kind of got like an olive skin tone. Starting with the lightest color in his skin and kind of working my way down. We kind of have like this brown was the primary color of the I don't know what I would call it. I guess like the over part of his shirt, or his outfit rather. And then I started focusing kind of on like the darker parts of his hair, like in the roots, the shadows of his hair, and then other parts of his outfit that had like those same like darker browns. And then I decided to include a black in here, not just for the microphone, just because just a way to balance it all out. Thank you for the hydrate. I appreciate it. I'm yapping a lot. Okay. So, for the middle row, it's, this one doesn't really kind of, like, show it off as well, but you do see the kind of, like, the aura of, like, the rainbow effect in his hair with, all of the colors of the rainbow. His outfit, you can kind of see it, like, right here, but you kind of see, like, that same kind of, like, rainbow gradient as well. So I took the colors from his, that kind of, like, give off that, that rainbow effect and put it into the center one. Just because that's very much, like, something that I feel like is very much a part of one of, like, the focal points that he wants to that they wanted to include in their design, so it just made sense to include it in the center part of the palette. And then the bottom part of his palette, again, focuses on the details in the outfit, kind of like the smaller ones. Like there is a bright red tassel in his around their waist. These colors pop more up in kind of like this is more like for his eyes rather, just because I didn't feel like it fit up there visually, and it made sense to kind of like include it next to the kind of like the brighter color. Same thing with the yellow right here that I'm pointing at. It made more sense to put it down here as well, since those were both from his eyes. But the red kind of tassel around his waist, the greens come from his earrings, so I put those two next to one another. And then these colors right here, in the kind of like the under part of the, I guess like with the layers, the way that they work, they have like this like kind of like a blue tinge to it, so I put them next to each other. And then I also just found like pops of just one pop of gray that I felt would balance it out just a little bit more. The center part of his palette was pretty easy, because I knew I wanted to include like the kind of like rainbow effect that was apparent throughout the model. But trying to like figure out how I wanted to organize the top and the bottom one was also pretty difficult for me. But that's Ori! Their design is very pretty. It's very soft. I feel like they would like give like really good hugs and like lull you to sleep in like a non-siren-y, like I won't kill you kind of way. I'm taking another drink. I don't know why I go to close it when I'm just gonna fucking drink from it again. Okay, but our next VTuber is Rizu Mayonaka. She is a idol VTuber, and her first rendition, I would have not been able to create this palette if I had just gone based off her first version of her model, like her 1.0 design. So this palette, or like this design, definitely made making her palette easy. So obviously like one of like her main colors is gray in her design. That's like in her hair, in parts of her outfit. So the top row, and in her eyes as well. She's got very like a goth aesthetic, which I love. So the top row focuses primarily on her hair and the grays in her outfit. The one kind of like the purplish gray from here in her design I got from her skirt, which I thought fit really well. I think that like the way that she chose like the same kind of like undertones like with the purple for the grays in her design just work extremely well. And I feel like it makes everything super cohesive. And it's chef's kiss. It's gorgeous. The center row is based off the kind of like her skin tone, her blush, the shadows of her skin. Because I felt like those were important to highlight, especially because like otherwise her palette would have just been grays and purples, but drawing attention more to her skin tone was really important to me. But I also put it in the middle because there's not as many, like the primary focus is in the grays and the purples in her design. So the center row focuses again on her skin tone, the way her blush looks, the shadows in her skin, and colors that I feel like would transition into those really well. Hi Try, welcome in. The bottom row was actually pretty difficult because again, this like version of her model doesn't really show off like the brighter colors that she can have. But in other versions of her or like alternative outfits for her, she holds a microphone that has kind of like these lighter colors in it. So I thought it was important to include those. But I did soften them up to, or I guess rather I cooled them down to kind of fit more with the overall vibe of the palette, which is very kind of like moody. It's definitely a moody palette. Like you wouldn't use this for like if you're going to like a super like a, I don't know what the word I would use to describe it is. You wouldn't you know, choose this for like an energetic makeup look. You would definitely choose it for more kind of like an alternative or kind of like gothic look, in my opinion. Especially because like you can pair this center column with any of the colors in this. There are lots of people who do like purple and brown looks. You get like grays and purples together, and then you can also use kind of these colors with the grays and the purples themselves as well. But she's definitely like a cool toned palette, and I guess the only brightness you really get from her is in her skin tone, and even then the only brightness you get is from kind of like the blush in her cheeks, but otherwise it's very kind of cool. The way her design looks is just really fucking cute. And again, it's also like, it doesn't help that it's also like an outfit that I would totally wear myself. And I love the way that like everything is kind of laid out. Color wise, visually, I feel like it makes sense. Ooh. But that's Rizu. She was very like, again, if I had only had her first rendition of her model to go off of, I would have not selected her, just because it would have been really hard to kind of like make a palette when there was only like 3 primary colors. Gothic school look, yeah, definitely. So I was really happy to kind of like see alternative outfits for her where she has, you know, more pops of color, like, but I eventually kind of like settled on this design because this is the one that she uses most frequently for like referencing anything. And I think I think I did her justice. I definitely think that if you look at this palette and then look at her, you're like, this looks like Rizu Mayonaka. Yeah. I'm gonna take another drink. Okay. So the next person I chose, okay. Pie Ducky, love your fucking design. You gave me so much trouble. When your primary color is fucking yellow, you start to struggle just a little bit. Like, holy fuck, I struggled so bad with working on your palette. So what I had to do was take the yellows were really tricky, but where I was able to kind of like find a way to make it work was taking a look at her eyes and the kind of art that she uses like for the environment that she kind of yo, I love that bell guy. Hi, Havo. So I guess I will start on this side of the palette. So with her reference sheet, she obviously comes from like a pond. So she had like lily pads and, you know, blues and stuff like that. So I felt like it made sense that rather than just focusing on the yellows in her design, the yellows and like the slight orangey colors in her design, I was gonna also try to focus on the environment in which she came from. Um, so I included colors from the water, the pond that she shows off in her streams. The pops of the blue in her eyes was definitely something I wanted to include. Your eyes are definitely drawn to this kind of area first, and then you kind of like work your way this way. Despite yellow being her primary color, you're definitely going to focus more on this side and then kind of work your way this way, which I feel like does more for the palette than if, you know, the whole palette was kind of just like yellows and oranges. The I guess it was more kind of like the one thing I really struggled with. Like I obviously like I put her skin tone in it, which is like a shade of yellow, and I kept white in the middle to kind of like keep it diverse. But something that I really struggled with kind of like finding variety in the shades of yellow. So I also included the pops of orange that showed up like in her lip gloss. The one thing that I thought was really smart about her design is in like earlier versions I saw of her model, her lips were actually like, you know, duck lips. But in the kind of like the later versions, like the one I have here, she actually just has like an orange lip gloss, which I feel like also kind of shows off that she's a duck. Um, um, it was, again, it was really fucking difficult for me to do her palette. I felt like I wasn't able to, I guess, nothing like I did like a couple versions of this of her palette. The only thing that stayed consistent was the left hand side of the palette, and trying to figure out how I wanted to include the yellows in a way that wasn't just super repetitive. So kind of like in the what's the word for it? So um the palette itself is kind of organized in like that same kind of column look except for this top part. And then same thing with kind of like this side of the palette. We have like the darkest color that I could find in her model, which was kind of like a very kind of like burnt orange. This color right here is like the color of her lip gloss. And then we have like her primary yellow color. And then I really just had to play around with like the kind of like the shadows and the other shades of yellow that, because like this is her one of her primary outfits, but she has different versions for the different seasons. So if they had like an alternative like shade of yellow, I took it from that and put it into the palette. But the main, like, while yellow is her main color palette, I definitely wanted to include more environmental parts to kind of help, I guess, balance it out in a way. Because again, your eyes are going to be drawn here, then down here, and then kind of like working your way over there. Yeah, again, people who can make yellow work in their color palettes, super big fan of. If I had just gone solely off of her model, I don't think I would have been able to do as much as I did, but I thought it was really important to include her environment in this palette. So I also, again, it's also just really smart that she made her lip gloss orange, so it kind of shows off that she is a duck. Oh, big yawn. No, but her design was really fucking cute. Again, I really struggled because of the lack of color in her actual design, and really just had to focus on the environmental parts to really create a palette that I felt did her justice. Like if you were to like put her whole like model with like her background and everything like that, you would definitely think of her. You would think of Pi. But if you look at her palette like just with her model only, you definitely wouldn't be able to kind of tell. So it's important that we kind of like think about, okay, ducks live in ponds. Ponds are normally kind of like green, and they have like the blue in her eyes kind of like gives off like the idea of water, but you also again have her eyes. It's just like it was really difficult. So I hope I did her justice, like in the way that I chose to, and like in the way that I chose to kind of like include her environment as part of her overall design, because I feel like it was important, because I don't think I could have done a palette for her otherwise. Yeah, but that's Pie Ducky. I'm taking a little break, I mean cheese. Okay. And then let me take a drink and then we'll continue on. Alright. So our next one is VTUBERS. Lots of cool toned palettes today. She was one of the ones that another original one that I wanted to choose. But I felt like I had some other options that just worked better for what I wanted. But we're just gonna start with kind of like where your eyes get drawn to naturally. I get drawn to this part of her design, part of the palette where the blues are more prominent, and you get those in her eyes. Just that beautiful, beautiful blue. And then my eyes kind of get drawn towards the kind of like the lighter greens. You get these lighter greens in the smaller details of her kind of like I don't know what you would call this. Kind of like a little like side bag that she has. It makes it just like there's like a little pop of color there. There's also pinks in there, but again, her palette is mainly gray, browns, and green. And again, the only pop of color that you really get from that like really stands out is in her eyes. But there is pops of green in here, but which I think was important to include, considering that their green is another like main part of her outfit design. The top row is pretty self-explanatory. You kind of go from the lightest shade of gray in her design. You can find that in her skirt and in her hair, and in the sleeves of her outfit. And then you kind of like transition into the kind of like darker grays in her design. That's a very big prominent part of her look. And then in the center, you have kind of like her skin tone, and then like the softer brown in the under part of her skirt. And then you kind of have like the base brown right here that that's lighter, and then you kind of have like the upper part of the skirt where like the main like where kind of like the shadows are. You kind of get like a kind of like an ashy brown, and then in certain details of her design, you have like a brighter brown that kind of like pops out a little bit more. You kind of get it in her little bag, in the details on her dress. And then you also kind of get it here as well, and in her boots that are not visible. And then again, like I said, you get pops of blue in her eyes, which I thought was really important to include. You get the lighter greens in like the smaller details that I thought would kind of just like add some like nice contrast. And then you have the green in her outfit as well, the darker green. I love this shade of green. I think it's extremely attractive. I love I love how earthy it is. Like she is definitely like she looks like an apothecary, like a very like whimsical apothecary. And I love the way that earth tones look paired with each other, and I feel like her overall design like encompasses like the earthiness. She's so pretty. She's so fucking pretty. And she also just has like flowers in her hair and just like the pops of like just like the bows, and then the browns from her feathers up here kind of like working their way down into the middle and in the bottom part of her outfit. It works really fucking well. Like I would have this palette like if I like wanted to kind of make like a really kind of like earthy garden party type of outfit. And I would be able to kind of like include like these colors in there as well. It's so pretty. But that's Junieberry. Let's see. All right. Let me take another drink. Okay. Alright. So our next palette is Noelle Frostlane. I like her palette wasn't like hard to pick color-wise, but it was hard to pick how I was gonna organize it, because it didn't felt like I guess her design didn't feel like it would kind of work cohesively any other way. And I also wanted to try out something different with her, or with the layout of the colors. So I'm going to start with the center part. So the center part is basically for the golds, the gold accents in her. It's kind of just like, again, like something that you can focus on. I just think that like they stand out against the outfit. Her VTuber reminds me of a Monster High design. This is a compliment. I wouldn't deny that it would be a compliment. It definitely sounds like a compliment. Monster High character designs can also be really fucking good. She reminds me of Abby Abominable. But I think that the golds pop against her outfit, both in her hair, in like the main like body part of her outfit, and in her kind of like from her waist down into her shoes. I think it just pops a lot more, so that's why I put it into the center. So this side of the palette focuses primarily on her skin and her hair. Obviously her hair is a very soft pink. That was that character's name, Abby Abominable. Yes. We had like the soft pinks in her hair. And there's also jewels in her design that have like these colors, so I thought it was important to include. And then obviously her skin is a very soft icy blue. But I also think that like these colors are just like very like kind of like, how would I describe it? Kind of like like icy cotton candy. Like with Ravenna's, like you definitely had like kind of like a bright cotton candy, but this was definitely just more like soft and kind of like cool toned. So that's kind of like what I would use to describe it. um um I will say though, for the center part, I wanted the lightest color in the middle and then kind of like the lighter two colors on top and the darker two on bottom, versus on the sides of the palette that aren't in the center, so this side and this side, we go from left to right, or no, right to left, being the darkest color. So you start with the lightest color and then you work your way towards the darkest one. And I just wanted to try out something different kind of like visually for the palettes. So that was kind of like my thought process behind it. And then in like the main, you're not able to kind of like see it with like her, with this main outfit, but she has like, in like her skirt, she had like, kind of like this like light lavender color, that kind of goes into like a pretty lilac that I wanted to include. And then kind of like the main body colors are, or rather, kind of like the, her dress, and in from her thigh highs down. These are the colors that you primarily see. The one thing that I really liked about her design was was her boots. They had kind of like a bright shine, kind of like silk, like when you see like kind of like when light hits silk in a certain way, you just see like a really kind of like a really bright version of the main of the color. So the main color of her thigh highs were this kind of like navy blue, and with the way the lighting worked in her design, it had this kind of like bright kind of like a brighter version of it that I really loved. And then there was a darker version of the navy blue that was kind of more kind of like going into the kind of like the black kind of side, but still kind of had what's the word for it? It's hard to describe it. I'm more like, if I could like I'm more of like a visual, like a, or like a hands-on person. I'm not good with words. I fumble my words so bad. I'm more articulate when I like type rather than when I speak, because I feel like when I speak I like fumble so bad. But you get what I mean. And then this was also part like this this kind of like little section is based off like the main bodice of the dress. But yeah, that's Noelle Frostlane. I loved kind of like hers was also a contender for like the blues, just because of her skin tone. But I felt like I wouldn't do her justice doing it the first time around. So getting kind of like my bearings with the first rendition of palettes that I did, kind of let me think about how I would organize things in a way that was visually engaging, but still also kind of representative of the VTuber that I'm taking inspiration from. And I think that I was able to do that really well with Noelle. But yeah, that's her. This next one is my favorite palette of all time. My favorite one that I've ever done. We have Aquamarine Soleo. Her design, colorful as fucking shit, dude. I had so much fun working on her design. But I'll start with the layout. So this top row, the primary color that I was using, or the primary color in her design is reds. So I went from left to right on the top row for her for kind of like the main colors that you see throughout her design. Like it's very prominent that red is the main color. And kind of other colors take kind of take the back burner in comparison. I will say on this side, the stream does not do it justice. But there are these bright colors in both kind of like in the outfit herself, like in the actual outfit, and in her in the tattoos on her skin that have like a really nice fucking gradient. So I absolutely loved working with like with this top row, but my favorite part is these bottom two rows, and kind of deciding how I wanted to organize them. I wanted to do a gradient because she definitely focused on having gradients from similar colors into one another. So it was really important that I did the exact same thing. So I started with the lightest color for kind of the yellows, and then started working my way towards kind of towards the middle. You get like a brighter yellow right here. You kind of have like a soft yellow kind of like in between. And then you start transitioning into the oranges in her design, both in her dress. Like in her dress, she also has those in her hair as well. And then also kind of like in her stocking down here. Oh, fuck. This bottom row was a little bit more like kind of to the point. She has primarily more blues in her design than she does green, but green is still prominent, so I wanted to include it, which is why I put it kind of in a smaller section at the very end. The blues kind of like transition from kind of like the lightest color in her design into the more kind of like into the darker colors, but you also kind of like start seeing the transition from kind of blue into kind of like the seafoam colors, so that it would kind of make these two colors kind of feel more cohesive with this bottom row. So visually it makes a lot of sense to me. I want, again, I was experimenting with how I wanted to organize this palette. So starting her kind of like the main colors of her design, going from left to right, and then the kind of like the other focuses of her palette going from right to left, just kind of like breaks it up. My main focus right now, like the thing that always just draws me towards it, is that center color, and then it just feels like your eyes kind of just like go in like a circle. Like you go from here, you're like, oh man, look at those. But then if you kind of like look at those compared to one another, and then just these bright colors compared to that, kind of like going against, and how you would pair, for example, like these colors with these colors, or these colors with these colors, or these with these, or these with those. It's like there's so many possibilities here that you like would get lost in it. It's just very visually fun to look at, and I think this would be like a palette I would use like every single day if I could. Like if I wore like more, like I either wear like super grungy alternative clothing, or I wear like super bright colors and there's no in between. But this would be like my go-to palette for like bright colors, 1000%. But that's Aqua. I fucking loved her design. I was like, I had to pick it this time around. Let me take a drink. Our next one is Vinia Valentine. Her palette was very soft. I honestly like really struggled with like her palette overall. She had like kind of like soft pops of color in her dress, and in the flowers in her dress, but overall kind of like her colors were very soft. So I kind of let me start with like the middle row, which is based off like her skin tone, or I guess like parts of her skin tone. So you kind of have like what do I say? Kind of like the lightest part of what I think her skin tone would be. Parts of her skin tone are also like in this top row as well, which is kind of like why they're all next to each other. But you also kind of like get these reds also in her in the flowers on the top part of her dress, like the roses. I picked some undertones from nope. I picked some undertones from her skin to put into the design. And then the later half of this section, I focused on the colors in her hair. She also has a hair like a bow made of hair like me, which I thought was super cute. So going back to this top row, so if we're visually, I wanted it to be looked at from Thank you, Kono. Visually, I wanted people to look at it from right to left, but for the sake of this, again, so we have parts of her skin tone kind of like mixed in here, but you also find these colors in different parts of her dress. So it's important to include that there. And then going to the right side, you kind of have, again, there's brighter colors in her dress that aren't visible here. But I think it was important to include. So we kind of have like some of the lightest colors in her dress there. And then also in her dress, you have obviously like with flowers, you have greens. So these are kind of like muted greens. And then there are like pops of blue like in her dress, but the main color is kind of like these lilac. When I say lilac, definitely lilac. They're just very muted and very faded. But these colors right here show up in her shoes and in some of the like kind of like the layers of her dress. I think her like I think that this would be like a very like good palette if you wanted to have like a balance between like pops of color and neutrals that I think would work with each other no matter how you paired it up. Like if you wanted to do like, for example, kind of like the yellows paired with kind of like these browns or with these purples, or if you wanted to kind of do like the kind of like the more red tones with the purples or even the blues. I think it works no matter how you phrase it, but it still has kind of like the neutrality that if you wanted to just do a neutral look, you could kind of focus on this part of the palette, or even include these for like for shadows and stuff like that, like contrasting colors. I think it like again, I think it works no matter how you want to do it, but I think it's neutral enough that you can use it as like an everyday makeup look, but it can also be used as kind of like a way to include like pops of color with those neutral looks that don't make you feel like you're wearing like a bright butterfly on your fucking face. which is pretty accurate to the eyeshadow look I wore the other night. I literally had like I did like a transition from like a bright yellow into kind of like a bright orange. And it was very pretty, according to others. hiccups. Good lord. Okay. But that's Vinny and Valentine. I love the fact that just like I want to see more VTubers with like bows made of hair like me. I would love to see more of those, but like cuz like when you think of like a VTuber's like silhouette, like one of the things that like you can either pay attention to is like the shape of their hair, like if their hair has like a distinctive shape, or you know, like other certain features. And I feel like people who have like interesting hair designs are like easily recognizable. So like having a bow made of hair is just like a really like unique identifier for like a VTuber silhouette. But that's just me. That's just me. Coming from somebody who literally has a bow made of hair. Okay. But the next one is Nerdy Alyssa. So obviously primary color is green. So I wanted to there were so many shades of green that I felt like if I had put it in the center row to make it like the focal point, I wouldn't have been able to kind of get the variety that her model shows off. So I made the executive choice to make the top row kind of focus on the top into the. I decided to make the top row the focal point for the greens. There are some yellows in her design, like in like parts of her shirt, but again, every other part of her model has green in it. We have like the highlight color in her hair, like right here, that I've wanted to focus on, and then I started I included the colors from her t-shirt and her jacket that she wears. This PNG doesn't really give off the show off the jacket that she wears, but these are the colors that I pulled from her jacket. And then these colors are focusing on her hair, kind of the lighter color after this highlight, and then the kind of like the darker parts of her hair that kind of like go into a gradient. She has like black like tips of her hair, but you kind of can get away with not really including black in this because you kind of have like this dark gray color that I feel like would suffice for it, and still work as in like showing that this like these colors kind of like would work well together if you look at her hair that way. The center part of her palette focuses on kind of again her skin tone and like the other parts of the outfit that I feel like don't give her like that don't show off her personality rather. We kind of like have her main skin tone kind of colors right there, but you can also see kind of like this this brown kind of like in her thigh highs down here. Then we start kind of like working towards like the what I'm trying to remember like what parts of her design I referenced for this, because a lot of my focus went towards the top part of her palette and the bottom part of her palette. She her design kind of has like with again like with her jacket, she also has a weapon that I also reference as well, but I don't have it here to show off. These colors were just primarily kind of just like not focal points, but they're still part of her design, kind of like in the in her tail design actually. 'cause she's got like these big pointy ears, and she has like the kind of like like we have like that gray, but it's kind of like an what kind of blue would I describe this as? I don't really know what kind of blue I would describe it as. But it's prominent in her tail. It's kind of like not what's the word? Words are hard, guys. Point being, it's in her tail. And then you also again see these kind of colors in her like thigh highs and her shoes. And then this bottom row is a little bit easier to explain. These two colors right here are kind of like for her shorts. These two colors, the primary color in her jacket is this pink color. But I wanted to include a darker shade of pink to kind of like help balance it out and kind of make nice transition colors. And then in her weapon specifically, you kind of get like these kind of like reddish browns that I wanted to include. Because the weapon is a big part of her design. I just would not have been able to show off like the palette the way I am if I had included the weapon in the design or in like the whole like presentation. So just trust me when I say these are in reference to her weapon. And then we just have like a kind of like a lighter version of this color kind of like right here to kind of again help with transitioning. The whole point was just like making sure that the greens were the highlighted part, because your eyes are just going to kind of go from, your eyes are forced to kind of go from look at the top row, and then your eyes kind of just flow down because you notice like this pop of color right here, and then you're kind of like, oh, what's next to it? And then you're like, oh wait, there's something up there too. So you're kind of having to kind of go down and then kind of look left to right depending on like what kind of look you're going for. And then it also kind of forces your eye to kind of go up as well, because you're like, okay, what can I blend with these colors? Could I maybe try these two, or is there a way that I can use like these colors with the greens up top? It's really kind of just how you would that's kind of like just again like wanting you to see how you can play with colors in a way that visually makes sense, but also like works like well color wise, like how you would pair certain colors with others, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's Nerdy Alyssa. And then this one is actually pretty simple and to the point. We have Paladin Shy. Her name is Shy actually, but her handle is Paladin Shy. So for her, the primary focus for her design was the shades of blue, both in her hair, in the jewels in her hair, and then also kind of like in the kind of the accents of her outfit. She does a really good job of kind of like bringing the blue down into her outfit, but still like having like other colors also be the focal point, which is why like I made the center row kind of like the browns of her outfit. And then for the bottom row, I focused on kind of like her skin tone being like these front two. And then her eyes were like a really big focal point of hers. So I wanted to include these colors for her eyes. And then I just noticed like a lot of like purple undertones kind of like in the shadows. So I took colors that I felt like would work best with both the top row and parts of the bottom row. and use them for the palette. The my favorite part of I love a good like a good like brown like array of colors. And my favorite one was my favorite color from the palette were these two. Just because I love how like I love like off-white colors. Like I think they just are like I don't know, I can't exactly explain why they're my favorite. Sometimes like just straight white can be very jarring to look at. So even just having it like be like a shade, like even just like a slight off white color makes all the difference. Especially like with her design, like her main hair color being white. I think that like it just pops off or pops really well against like the browns in her outfit. And then having her eyes kind of be like a really like striking like red color, I think works really well. I wish like in like other renditions of her art you kind of like her eyes are like more prominent. I just like I would love to kind of like see like what she would look like in kind of like alternative colors. Ooh, fuck. Don't look at that. I would love to see like her with like alternative versions of her outfit, maybe even like switching up where the browns are, see how it would affect her visually. And that's why I think that her color scheme works really well, because you can kind of like I I would guess say like switch things around just a little bit and kind of like play with how certain looks could be. Ooh. I really do like I do love the blues, don't get me wrong, but just like I'm a sucker for these kinds of browns. I think they're the best shades of brown. And just they're perfect. They're perfect in my eyes. Okay. Bye, little vault dweller. Thank you so much for being here. Okay. You guys saw it already, kind of. But the one Anaweeb was my next choice. She reminds me of like a Dragon Ball character. She's very cool. So much like Whoa Mama. Yeah. She's got nice everything. She's nice everything. So like Ravenna's palette, the lightest colors in the middle and everything kind of works out from the center towards the opposite side. So from here you go from right to left, right to left, right to left, and then left to right, left to right. Obviously, primary color is purple, so I made that kind of the center row. The right-hand side kind of focuses on the purple parts of her design. Kind of like the brighter, kind of like magenta color going into the transition colors that you kind of see down here. That can also be seen down here as well. And then there's kind of just like other pops of purple that show up in her design, especially like in the shadows, that I was able to kind of like really pick from, that I didn't think I would be able to find. It was like when one of like the primary colors is like very kind of like cool, it can feel really daunting. Sorry, I yawned again. But it can feel really daunting trying to create create a color palette that works with cool tones that doesn't always feel like it's the exact same. So I was really like conscious about like what colors I was picking from like the speckles, the kind of like the underparts of the tentacles, and the shadows of the tentacles. If there was like even just like a slight change in tone, for the tentacles, and you can kind of see like these were the primary colors of the tentacles. But I was able to find a lot of really nice like blue undertones from the tentacles that I also thought were just important to include. Not because like they're the undertones, but because I felt like these colors would offer like offer nice like transition colors, especially like when you think like if you see how like vibrant this is, kind of like transitioning from blue, like from like for example like this blue or this blue down here, kind of like, so going from like these bright colors going down to kind of like this blue down here and then transitioning into purple. I think that visually just looks really nice. And then on this top row, I was just kind of doing it for the kind of like the other things that aren't as prominent, like the shorts. Like she's not really wearing a lot of clothing, so there's not really much like need to like make a huge section for kind of the for things like that. So, but I included kind of like an off, like a kind of like a dark gray here. Hi, cool, awesome dude. Welcome in, sweetheart. And then kind of like a lighter gray, and then just like another purple that I found that I thought paired really well with these three colors. Them booba though, yeah, they're big booba. She got big tibbies, big old tibbies. Can't relate, but I like my boobs, so my body type and abs, yeah. And kind of, I love V-lines. V-lines on people, fucking, good lord, I love V-lines. But I also love collarbones. V-lines and collarbones are like my fucking, like, bread and butter. And then I guess like I also forgot to mention, so this kind of top row also not really have like a, doesn't really have like a prominent part in her design, but it is noticeable in kind of like her wristband, and I wanted to include that, so that's why it's there. Noted. That's wild. But that's the one Anna weave. And then last but certainly not least, we have Cosmic Kitsune. I picked her specifically because she has two tails, and she looks like Tails from Sonic, and I was like, I love Tails. Tails is my favorite character from Sonic. And for this one, I actually did something a little kind of silly for the layout of the palette. So, top row, I went from, I organized it the way I did with, like, the previous one for the one Anna Weeb, and that there's a lighter color and it transitions into the darkest. But I did it from going opposite sides. So, from the right-hand side to here, you have kind of, that certain like gradient, and then from this side to this side you also had a gradient. The center row starts with the lightest color, works your way to the darkest one, and same thing on the right hand side, you go from the center and then work your way out to the right. And then the bottom row matches matches the top row in that you go from the outermost kind of shade into the center part, Um, and your eyes, like personally, my eyes get drawn to this part of the palette first, and then I kind of like work my way around. But just because I love how prominent these colors are, like throughout her design, like she brings it. She has it in her ears, and it's also like in accents all across her model. Like in her eyeshadow, kind of like this upper kind of like golden thing around her arm. Oops, shit. In her belt, in her skirt, and then in her tail, obviously. Um, um, I love the way that she balanced this color and brought it into different parts. And I get so many people did a really fantastic job with their designs in uh breaking everything up. And I think it was really smart for like her to use the belt, like this bright like belt to kind of break up the body of the outfit. It just it visually just kind of like shows the transition between where like the top of it and like where the top of her top transitions into being like the skirt. And I think it visually looks really incredible. So obviously starting with like kind of like this bottom section, since I mentioned it, you start with the lightest color of her ears, or rather lightest color of the colors that are available, and kind of working her way towards like the shadows, which is kind of just like, again, this burnt orange. And then in her design, this is also something that kind of gets brought down from kind of like this upper portion of her chest kind of downwards. It's this like bright like cyan, and then you kind of get like the kind of like the shading in the cyan itself, kind of going from kind of like this kind of like cobalt blue into kind of like a navy blue into kind of like a darker kind of like sky blue, I would say. Or kind of like a kind of like a night, not like a what's the word that I would use for it? This one just kind of like makes me think of like kind of like the real like when you're watching a sunset and you're kind of having like the darkest part of like the purple. That's kind of like what I think about, but it's still like, but it appears to be blue, if that makes sense. It makes sense in my head, and that's what I'm going for. So the center row kind of focuses on her hair. There are parts of like her hair that are kind of referenced in like this section, but primarily on this side you start from kind of like the lightest part of her lightest part of her hair, and then kind of just like have shadows and like transition colors from that lightest color to the darkest one in her in like this top part of her hair. And then kind of like in this section, in like the little fringes of her hair on the center part of her kind of like pigtails, you kind of have like this soft baby purple kind of going into the more kind of like prominent color that's kind of right around here. I included this color, like this, the ends of her hair up here, just because it visually made more sense putting it with kind of like this array than this, just because this is kind of like more of like a bluish, like these are more like bluish purples rather than just kind of just being like primarily purple. But then with that being said, I focused on parts of the upper parts of the outfit, which have kind of like these that is so pretty. Thank you so much, Miss Sinclair. Hi, good to see you, baby. I started with kind of like the lighter color in her dress, which is kind of like this kind of like a soft, like a, what would I describe it as? It's a bluish purple. It's a bluish purple. And then I took, again, parts of her parts of her hair that's also kind of like in her outfit and put them here. And then included kind of like the dark blue of her of like the main part of her outfit, kind of like where the top and the skirt are. Included that. And then from this side, I included the brightest, darkest purple that she had in kind of like the lower half of her design, and then started transitioning into the like the shadows to kind of like give off the cosmic vibe. Like, you would definitely kind of like think of this as like a galaxy palette. You could use all the blues and the purples to kind of create like a really like pretty night sky, or even like a sunset. I think you would be able to make a really pretty sunset palette, or sunset eye look with this palette. And I really kind of struggled with picking which colors I wanted to be the lightest one, but I ended up deciding on the center one and then the outer corner ones, just to kind of, because they are the brightest ones that you're going to be picking from if you want to kind of like emphasize the colors that are the base of the lid. Like if you wanted to use these colors as kind of like a base, and then putting this as a topper, you would definitely want these colors down, because it would help make the shimmer shade pop. Same thing with these ones, these and these. But you can also use I would use the shimmer shade for kind of like this section, maybe even like that part. Same thing with kind of like these colors, and you can also use it with these colors as well. Everything can work with one another if you truly put your mind to it. But yeah. But that's on the palettes. All 20 VTubers I designed palettes for. Good fucking lord. I had so much fun picking palettes for everybody. It was so much fucking fun. And I definitely feel like I've gotten like the hang of like how I choose colors, how I decide to lay it out based on their design, how I can take the environment. If you ever do this again in the future, I plan to. I'm gonna be doing another one next month. So I got to obviously I'll make a post about it. But I picked people from my previous post about it because I wanted to give people who I really loved but didn't select the first time around a chance. And so I'm really excited to give some new people the opportunity to get a palette designed by me. I had so much fun. This time around, it definitely gave me a little bit more of a challenge trying to create palettes that fit the character and the environment they came in with, like Pie Ducky, for example. Having to consider kind of like alternative ways to include colors that didn't just have one primary color, like with again with Pie Ducky, like primary color's yellow, and I didn't want just like a yellow palette with like some pops of orange in there. I really took care and like thinking about the environment in which their VTuber came from and incorporating those into the palette. But yeah, I had so much fun with that. But I'll definitely be doing another one next month, near the end of March. I'll have to obviously make a post about it and whatnot. Yeah. Let me look and see who's live. I will say, so my schedule for next week comes out tomorrow at 9 a.m. PST on Twitter and YouTube, and then it will also be posted in my schedule channel in my Discord server. I have some really fun things planned for the next 2 weeks at least. I have like ideas that I want to kind of work on. I just Monday stream is gonna kind of help me put my thoughts together, and I'm really excited for you guys to see what I have planned on Monday next week. But yes, schedule comes out tomorrow at 9 a.m. PST on Twitter, YouTube, and in my Discord server. I'm probably not gonna have community night tomorrow because I do have to be up at 5 a.m. on Monday, and I'm gonna be fucking exhausted. So we shall fucking see. But let's see who's live. Who can we pass the love to? That is not what I wanted. I went to Twitter again. Let's see. No, we will copy my raid message, and we're gonna raid Juzo because I love Juzo. Juzo is one of my favorite people in the whole fucking world. So no stream tomorrow, but my schedule does come out. I'm really excited for Monday's stream. So I hope you guys will tune in for that, especially if you have some things that you really need to work on. But you'll see what we have planned. But with that being said, let's raid Juzo. And I will see you guys on Monday for stream. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it, guys. Bye-bye.